Hello, everyone. My name is Josh, and this is a new series called Skype for B Spotlight. This is going to be a series that differs a little bit from the Skype for B recap, which you may be a little more familiar with. For starters, I look a little more silly in this series than I normally would. If the hat wasn't quite enough, I decided we should try to put some headphones on with it, and so yeah, we're going to see how that goes. There's obviously a few production kinks to work out with the with what's going on here and why the headset is necessary, but we'll get there. The premise of the show is that it's not even going to be once a week or on a regular cadence, but here and there I'm going to be talking to different partners or vendors in the Microsoft UC space and talking to them about a specific product that they support and they build and provide to the community to assist us in offering better environments to our company or our clients. And this week, for my very first episode of the Skype for B Spotlight, I have Bridge OC with me. Very pleased to have Doug Routledge on and Gary Manske from Bridge OC. Guys, thanks for joining me. I'd like to start out with having you each introduce yourselves really quickly here. And Gary, we'll start with you.
Sounds great. Thanks, Josh, and thanks for having us. We're super excited to share with everyone the Bridge Operator Council. I am responsible at Bridge Communications for our channel development activities, and just happy to show things to the audience and hope they get some value out of the discussion today.
Excellent. Awesome. Thanks, Gary. And Doug?
Hi, Josh. Thanks for the opportunity today. My name is Doug Routledge, and I am head of the development team here at Bridge Communications, and I'll be driving the demo portion of this.
Excellent. All right. So that's as Gary mentioned, we are specifically looking at the operator console here, and going to have a demo of obviously the general functionality that the tool brings to the table. But then we're also going to try to highlight specific features, specifically ones that will make this product stand out from competition or just stand out as bringing a lot of value to people that may want to use it. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and pass the screen back over to Doug. And Doug, if you're ready, you can go ahead and share your screen. And we'll get this demo started off. All right, beautiful. So right here, we're looking at, obviously on the right, what should be quite familiar to all of us, the Skype for Business client. And then right beside that on the left, we have the Bridge Operator Console. And if one didn't know better, you would think that practically they were designed by the same people almost. We got all the same color schemes happening. We have the circular effect going for different icons and buttons. So we have a very similar experience between the two clients. With that, though, Doug, if you'd like, I'd like to have you jump in and start kind of sharing what each of these areas is on the screen and giving us the general layout. You know, we'll assume that we all know a little bit about the operator consoles, but go ahead and give us just the breakdown of what you guys offer in this first screen here.
Sure, certainly. The Bridge Operator Console, like any other attendant console, is really designed for people that answer and transfer phone calls for a living. We built it to be very much like a Microsoft Office application, using similar controls, like a ribbon at the top, like you'd see in Word, Outlook, Excel, collapsible lists on the side, and things like that. So to start, really the important parts of the program are this black box where we see Melissa Went's name. This is what we call our heads-up display area. So what we do in here is we show information about what I like to call the current call that we have selected. So if there's only one call, obviously that's the call that we have selected. If there's a second call that rings in, those populate here under My Conversations, and we can size those things up and down to really accommodate as many calls as you'd like to be visible at one time.
And so just to state the obvious, then you are playing the part of Melissa Went in this, correct?
Correct.
Okay.
Correct.
All right. So that's you signed in up there, and you've got two different calls in your conversation queue. All right.
So to get the one in the heads-up display, we can just pick which one we want. And what that does is it tells us when we click the hang up button which of these calls we want to hang up. In our program, you'll see there's a number of different ways to do things. Right-click, drag and drop, double-click. It's accessible in many different avenues, but that's really the primary function of the heads-up display, is to facilitate which call these button clicks affect.
Okay. So we can see that this call here was on hold, or the one that was just there a minute ago, and that's all in that status box up there, the black box now, but the one that changes colors as these calls come in and you do perform different operations on the call.
Correct. And if you are just starting out with the program, help is only one click away. You can always pop out this little key that tells you what all the icons and colors mean.
Awesome. Awesome.
So that's available. Below that is something we call directory groups, and this is where we're different than most programs in the space. You can create groups over here in your Skype for Business client, and as you can see, this one called Other Contacts is pulled in here as well. But you'll notice we have way more on our program than there are here. There's only 3 or 4 here. So what we do is we actually can combine elements from your Skype for Business client as well as from your corporate Active Directory, and we can build out these things based on a department, company, however your organization is structured, so that when you want to look at everybody in accounting and see who's on the phone, it's just one click away without having to try to create a group called accounting in your client, maintain the status and new hires and things like that in an organization. So it simplifies the process for the users.
So the directory groups, then, just to kind of recap that and make sure I've got a good grasp here, we've got groups that are pulled in from our Skype for Business client. We've got groups pulled in from Active Directory, and we can also create custom groups. Is that correct?
That's correct. You can create and modify groups, and they can be shared amongst operators if you make them visible to all in a client server type deployment.
Right. Okay. Perfect. That's a really. Let's take a quick break from a tour of the tool here just to discuss that on a very quick and light level, the client server architecture. So, can you describe really quickly what the 2 different ways that someone could deploy the operator console within their environment? One obviously being server client that you mentioned. Kind of talk a bit about what that looks like and what the benefits are, and then what the other option would be.
Yeah, absolutely. So when you install our program, the first screen that'll pop up in the settings basically asks you, hey, do you want to just install this on one computer on a standalone island, or do you want to connect to an existing server? The difference really is if you want to just do the one click, 30-second install, you don't really need any other setup. You can be up and running in under a minute and have all the information available to you. If you choose the client server route, you do get some benefit. So basically there's a server component that can be configured either to talk to the server infrastructure with UCMA or not. It'll have a small SQL Express database tied to it, which the clients will attach to. Okay. And some of the benefits there are a shared parking lot is one. So if an operator parks a call, the other operators can actually see that parked call as well as possibly who it's parked for if they use the park for function in our app. They can share caller ID information. Again, they can share these global directory groups if someone creates a custom group, as well as a global address book that we provide for external people. So if they're required to call a number of vendors or something like that, they don't have to enter that in on each client. That can be shared as well. Those are some of the benefits.
Excellent. Okay. So essentially, if you're a small company and you just had your operator sitting at the front there, that operator would probably be running just a standalone client. But you're in a bigger group and you've got maybe a couple different operators or a few operators all having to take in a larger number of calls. There are clear benefits to be had in a server client architecture. Okay, awesome. Let's go from the architecture discussion back over to the client itself, and the first feature that I'd really like to have you dive into and talk about, frankly, just because I find it to be just really fascinating and quite amazing, is the Predictive Transfer feature. Can you give us a little intro into what that is, and then show us kind of what it looks like?
Sure. Predictive Transfer, like most of the features that we create here, are really sort of aimed at making the job of answering and transferring calls easier. So one of the things that kills a lot of time is from the time somebody answers the phone to where the caller tells you who they want to speak with. You have to go either look them up in a directory group or search for them, find them in some manner before you can transfer the call. Predictive transfer is basically 5 machine learning algorithms that can sort of keep track of where a particular caller is transferred, where other users are transferring a particular caller, what other employees in your organization are out calling this particular caller. So it can kind of combine all those different things together so that when you receive a call, if there is some information about that caller, we can present a list of up to basically like a top 40 list of where we believe this call is going to go.
So in this case, this call that comes in, Predictive Transfer is showing us 5 different people that it's very likely this person would want to be transferred to.
Yeah, these are the people we primarily use in our demo environment. So yeah, it's pretty much spot on. So it's the 5 users that logically this is actually intended for. This is probably the person we transfer to the most. So right at the top we've got the user. So it's just a matter of at that point of say double clicking on the user and picking the kind of transfer we want to do, and that call is off with no searching.
Excellent. And so then we actually see that get updated in the in that panel right there in the center that they're in a call. Awesome. Now just for the sake of calling out some statistics here, because this is a demo environment, so it's everything always works good in test and in the lab, right? And when you're demoing something, but when you get into actual production, people are like, well, how accurate is it really? Can you give us any stats around what the numbers are you guys are seeing, and maybe time saved and operations related to transferring?
Yeah, as of today, we are running at about 87% of the uses are picking one of the top 2 users, and we have kind of calculated we've saved well in excess now of 1 million seconds of search and lookup time, and it's only been in production for, I think this is week 5, so it's a fairly new feature.
Awesome. So those are some impressive stats. Yeah, that nothing to bat an eye at there. So predictive transfer, one of the notes that I had taken on it from earlier conversations was, if for some reason someone thought, you know what, I don't like being saved time and I like having to work harder, you can turn predictive transfer off, correct?
You can toggle it manually here, or at any point while it's showing, you can just start typing and type right over what it's got in there and find the people yourself. So it's not something you have to cumbersomely fight, I guess, if it's something that you don't want.
Right. Excellent. Now, one last thing on predictive transfer before moving to the next feature is for your existing customers that may have stumbled across this video here and for whatever reason have not updated their clients to the latest updates, how would they go about obtaining the predictive transfer feature if they do not yet have that?
The client is really easy to update. Basically, when you close it, it will, if it's got an internet connection, or if it's in client server, if the server's got an internet connection, it can actually cache the installs. It'll tell the user, hey, there's an update to install. It's just a matter of clicking yes or no, and that's all there really is to it. When they first launch it, after they have a predictive transfer enabled update, it'll actually prompt them and say, hey, there's a great new feature called predictive transfer, and it outlines it, and that's a yes no on the bottom of that, and they select yes, and they've got it.
Slick. That's awesome. Okay, so if you are a current customer of Bridge OCs and you have this tool but do not have predictive transfer, and you're like, ooh, I need that, stop saying no when you're prompted to update the client, and then you'll have it. So, all right. Next up, let's talk a little bit about the Park 4 feature. I'll go again, same kind of thing here. If you can tell us about it as you're demoing it, and we'll see what Park 4 is all about.
Yeah, in I think 2008, we were sort of at the beginning of creating an attendant console, and we're just sort of sitting with users and watching kind of what they did, in a day-to-day world, and watching people park calls and then have to inevitably either overhead page somebody, or instant message, or send an email, or throw a shoe at whoever the call is for. It's about time saving. There's a lot of time and effort that goes into those things. So we created a function called Park 4, which essentially just wraps some of our code around a normal call park. So if I right click on someone and say Park 4, it's just going to park the call like any normal call. The users will be able to see who it's for, which is kind of a nice feature. And then we can actually automate a message out to the user who the call we designated, with a list of who the caller is and a little clickable URI they can click to actually take the call. So they don't have to remember what number to dial or anything like that. It's just a matter of click it and they've got it. So
nice. That's, and that's informative without, in my opinion, being intrusive or overbearing, to someone who may be busy at the moment. So
one thing that we really find where it's nice is if someone's on a call. So that way the person at the other end gets to decide, okay, these are the two calls for me. I can pick which one's more important.
Yeah. So let's talk about, a situation in which we've got maybe someone that you want to park for, but they're in Office 365. And of course, call parking is not in Office 365 yet. What options would you have for them?
Okay, so if we go back to that sort of scenario where someone's on the phone and we want to park a call for them, that is something that we have sort of worked around with a feature that's probably similar to what would probably be called Camp On in the older days. It's not really, if I can get a second call to ring in here. There we go. All right, so with two calls on, let's just send this first call to Derek Reiser really quick. And if he's on the phone now and we want to send a call to him, which we'll see here in a second, we can do something in our advanced transfer section called transfer call after current call ends. So what it'll do is it's going to special orange color hold it for us. And then when Derek hangs up this call, he'll get this call transferred to him. Whoops. And if we look at him, we send a similar message there. So, he gets a call, letting him know who it is. If for some reason he can't take the call or something, it's just on hold, so we can always get it back. It's just sort of color coded for our convenience to know that it's going to transfer as soon as it's done, and we just see him finishing up that second call now. So,
right. Okay. Awesome. That's very good workaround for the areas that Office 365 Cloud PBX is still trying to catch up on. So. Before we leave the transferring topic, let's briefly touch here on safe transfer. Now, I like this one because I've worked in situations in the past where, in support, primarily where you get a pretty disgruntled user on the phone because they've been paying their bill or thought they were, and their card expired, and suddenly their website is down, and you need to transfer them to your manager. But when you go to transfer them, maybe they just go to voicemail, and that person gets really upset. They want to talk to somebody. They don't want to leave a message. Their stuff is down. What can we do for these poor souls that are having to deal with very angry customers?
Yeah, certainly. You're right. Instead of pouring gas on the fire and making them more irate by having them hit a voicemail or something like that, you can initiate something called a safe transfer. And it's a special set of transfer options that's actually built into the back end of the Skype for Business client API that lets you have this control. What it'll do essentially is, I like to call it human to human. It's going to go either in this case to Susan Larson, or it's going to ring back to us. It's not going to follow call forwarding. It won't follow voicemail. Nothing like that. So if for some reason Susan didn't answer this call, we'll see it ringing back to us, shortly thereafter.
Okay. So I suppose if you're the operator, though, it could be an unpleasant thing to have to talk to them repeatedly. But at least they're not going to be too upset in the end when they actually get.
More than likely, you'll be talking to them again anyway, and this would be under better circumstances. Yes.
Right. Exactly. They'll be a little less upset. Okay. Awesome. Let's move on from transfer discussion, and let's talk about a nifty feature called Related People. Again, if you can just give us some background on the use case here and what it looks like in the client.
Yeah, absolutely. So Related People, again, we're all about time and convenience, making this job easier. So there will become, or have situations where a caller wants to be transferred to a certain individual who may be gone. They may be busy. They may be in a meeting. For whatever reason, they want to talk to this person. Well, in a large organization, if we have 15,000 employees, I don't know everybody, so I don't know who else can help this caller. But with Related People, what I can see, as I right-click here, is I can see, in this case, Derek Reiser, his manager, an assistant if he's got one, secretary if he's got one, people in the same department, people with the same title as Derek, and people who share the same manager as Derek. So sort of like what we call a team, the people that are managed, like Derek by a certain user. So we can kind of find different groups of people that, depending on what the caller wants, are very much like Derek or related to Derek.
It's very, very contextual depending on the caller's needs. So yeah, that's really handy, and it's great too that you have all these other attributes built in, the pictures, the titles, and all that stuff. It really paints a clear picture for you. So as to especially like it could be a slightly larger organization, but you're not sure quite who you need. Maybe you recognize a face, and you say, oh yeah, that person would be great to step in for. You don't remember their name, but you remember their face, and so it's good having all these different features, not just the contextual information in there. So awesome. Okay, let's talk a little bit about call recording. Now you offer a call recording client for free, but how else can we benefit from that with the operator console?
Yeah, we developed and released for free a call recording solution for Lync and Skype for Business. It's client side, so it does work with Office 365. It's since it is client side, it's probably not the perfect solution for let's record the entire organization's calls and try to save them for compliance. But it kind of is what it is. It's free. It does have some cool features. You can grab a Microsoft Cognitive Services key. So after it's done recording your file, which it will, by the way, compress to an MP3, so you don't have to run out of hard drive space with 600 meg WAV files all over the place. Mm-hmm. After it's done with that, it can actually go out to the Cognitive Services and Bing Speech and turn that call into searchable text. So later, when you've recorded 10,000 calls and you want to figure out when did we talk about Bill Gates, you can actually type that in a search and it'll find all the files and let you play them from that search engine. As far as the operator console goes, we've actually incorporated so it can tell if you have that installed. And if you do, it'll light up this little record call button, which essentially if you got a hostile caller or something like that, you can click record, and when you hang up the call, it'll stop. So it's smart enough to just be aware of what's going on and lets you do on-demand recording with the client as well.
Awesome. You probably should say the disclaimer at the beginning that this call may be recorded for quality assurance or whatever that disclaimer is. But yes, awesome tool. Okay, cool. So we have call recording. We've talked a bit about transferring and related people. The next feature, I like the name. I think it's a cool name, but it's also a very cool feature. And I personally have, there's a use case out there that I didn't recognize was a use case until you showed me this feature. And so I think it's great to touch on and talk about how you solve this nagging problem that many people can face. Let's chat about Squat Scheduler. Squat Scheduler, the premise here is essentially when we find ourselves in a situation where we've got multiple people that we want to bring into a call at some point and trying to jive all those schedules and find all the right free time and find that one thin slice of free time on all their calendars that you need to already have access to. That can be problematic and a huge time zapper. So what does Squat Scheduler do, and show us how this works?
Yeah, so Squat is really, you described it very well. It's for when I want to have say a 5-minute conversation with the 5 people I'm working on a project with, but I don't want to go into, the calendar scheduling and try to figure out when everybody's available and block off an hour's worth of everybody's time in their calendar for a 5-minute call. I just want, as soon as they're available to get notified and be able to start a call. So since we can keep track of, people's presence and things like that, we just kind of combined all the tools together and made this thing called Squat. So I can either search for people and add them to the list. I can save lists. In this case, I just loaded a list called My Team. These are the 5 people that I always need to have a call with. I can save them here. I can type some notes. So when you're me and, an hour later when this thing pops up and wants to start the call when they're all available, I can remember what I wanted to talk about, because that can be a problem for me.
Yeah, me too.
So
an hour is a history of time.
Yeah. Well, I was being generous. 7 minutes, and I probably have forgotten. Yeah. So once we have our list of users and a little description of what we want to talk about, all we do is click Begin Squat, and this thing is actually going to go let us know. this is kind of a bad scenario since I picked a whole bunch of people. We probably will never see it, but it'll leave us a little note here on the toolbar that'll tell us, who we're going to talk to and what we're going to talk about when they're all available. So really, there's not much to see after that, because once they become available, you just get a little box with the notes and a yes or no. Do you want to start the call? And it actually creates a conference call and invites all those people as soon as everyone's available. So
I'd love that. That's a great addition.
Solves a problem you never knew you had, right?
Exactly. That is the perfect description of the problem. It's one that was a problem, and you just didn't okay, I know what to do. I need to go to Outlook, and I need to look at all these people's calendars, but you don't stop to think that, man, this is cumbersome and should be much simpler. And this is a great answer to that thought. So, very cool. Squat scheduler. I like it. Calendaring. Kind of along those lines a little bit, but calendaring as a pop-out, let's talk about what that is.
Sure. We will integrate with, obviously, Microsoft Exchange. We do it in a little bit different fashion than some of the other things out there. We use a back-end programmer technology called EWS, rather than having to have 15,000 users share their calendar with the person answering the phones at the front. We can do one shell script and actually impersonate and get information. It does let us do a couple other things. So we can limit what they can see easily then by saying, they're allowed to see only free or busy, they're allowed to see a subject, or they're allowed to see subject and body. So you can sort of have a little bit more privacy than maybe you normally would.
Right. Okay.
Where this is nice, frankly, is if somebody calls for Doug Johnson and we see he's in a meeting, the caller says, all right, well, when's he going to be available? So we click on him, and in a couple seconds, we can tell him, all right, looks like he won't be available till tomorrow morning at, whatever time. So just a quick sort of free busy. Yeah. If Doug Johnson is someone we're the personal secretary for, and we only care about him, we can pop him out as his own little window, and we can basically see his calendar throughout the day, just kind of rolling by as things happen, and one-click transfer to him all day long. So.
Yeah, awesome. Very, very slick tool. And again, nice to not have to be messing with a calendar outside of the tool. All this calendaring potential is built right in. So very cool there. All right. In my notes here, I had architecture, but we kind of snuck that in a little earlier in the conversation, and it was a good segue at that point. So is there anything else before we switch over and talk about kind of why Operator Console, why Bridge OC, and training materials? Is there anything from the demo and technical side here that you'd like to share with us, Doug?
I can show you some advanced features if you'd like, real quick.
Yeah,
one nice
absolutely.
thing that certain customers, hospitals, frankly, a lot, will use is something called the join all calls, where they've got a call from a caller, they've had to go make several calls to doctors' cell phones to find the person that they want to talk to. Well, now I've got two calls that I need to somehow get together. Join all calls is a nice feature there where it'll turn that into a single conference call, and then you can drop off after everybody's sort of added. So now all those users are in, I drop off, and they're still talking. So it's a nice, easy way to do that.
Yeah. Oh, that is awesome.
That's one thing. If you do anything on-prem with response groups or things, and you just need to know, can I go to the bathroom? Are there 4 other people that are in the queue now so I can go? You can see those sorts of things, as well as, who's answering calls, call volumes, those sorts of things. That can be a nice.
Is a big, having that visibility, a nice, good wallboard that's visually appealing like that for response groups is a favorite and an oftentimes asked thing of organizations with response groups. So.
If you need to do a customer lookup in a third-party program or URL, we can push caller ID, name, and number. In this case, we're pushing it to an EXE, but we can just as easily push it to a URL. So if you have some other software for billing or whatever, Salesforce or whatever it may be, you can integrate basically sharing to any of those things. If you wanted to see geographically where a call's from, maybe you have to distribute them based on a region. You can look up on any call and see where it's coming from.
Oh, that's cool.
So that's in there as well. Yeah, there's a number of different things.
I have a thing with maps, so that was cool. I didn't know that was there. That's neat.
Yeah, I mean, we can take that a step further too, where, if you really love maps, you can see if there's 10 people on the call, where they're all from. We can translate any, typing from language to language. So if it's an international call and we're having a hard time communicating, that's all available as well. So.
Wow. Okay. That's pretty cool. That is nifty. All right.
I could bore you for hours.
No, this is great, and so I think this is a good point then to switch gears over a bit and have Gary share with us again why this tool, why Bridge OC, and how customers can get more information or a more in-depth demo if they would like to. So I'm just going to switch over to you at this point, Gary. I see you're currently on mute there, and
you should be good to go.
Oh, yep, you're good. All right. So,
awesome.
Yeah, if you can, just tell us again a little bit about the value of the product from Bridge OC's perspective, about you guys, and then, yeah, describe what a customer or a potential customer needs to do to dive deeper with you.
Absolutely. So I think what's really important here is whether you're a small business, to your point earlier in the conversation, whether you're a small business that has one operator or a global organization that has operators across the world, we have both the experience as well as the features and functionality necessary for that customer, for that company, to have a tenant council that's going to work for them in their environment. Not only do we scale, whether it's the standalone or the client server version, but the team, the executive team and the rest of the organization as well, we have a lot of experience working with customers. We started in the business on the Cisco side of technology. And the way that our application has been built over time has been through other operators, other users providing their feedback about features that they would like to see. Those get vetted and those get added in. So this is not a V1 application. This is actually deployed in about 20,000 customers today. So there is some experience and there is some logic behind why we've built what we've built.
Got some real street cred and some direction from that street cred. So
absolutely, right. Absolutely. And we'll be honest as well. If there's something that we don't do, we'll take a look at it. If it's something that fits for our customers, we're happy to bring it in. If it's not, we'll tell customers that as well. So, awesome. We're a flexible, fast organization that has a lot of experience in the space. As you talk about how do you engage or how do you get more information, certainly we have a website. Bridge Communications can be found at www.bridgeoc.com, and you get some more information there. We also provide customers and resellers, we do have a reseller channel as well, the ability to schedule demos. We publish our calendar so customers can schedule demos at their leisure. We offer a 60-day trial key. It's a full version trial key. Not only do we just give you the key, we provide the engineering behind it, an engineer to help you get that set up in your environment so you can get the full benefit of that application for 60 days. Gives you a real chance to prove it out with the organization, get out any kinks that might be there within your Active Directory or what have you, and make a true decision whether this is going to be the best tool for your company or not.
That's awesome.
And then, of course, when things are ready, we have the ability to engage with a sales rep to create a quote. And all of our support, by the way, is 24/7 and unlimited. So we don't limit the number of instances or calls or anything of that nature. We want our customers to be happy and to be productive. That's what it's all about for us, Josh.
Awesome. Great. And all that contact information, where to get demos and where to find more information, I will include all that for everybody watching in the video description on YouTube. As I do with the Skype for B recap episodes, I will have a video description in which you can find all the links that are made available to you there. So we'll make sure that it's all easy to find, and that way if you like what you see or just want to see more or even just have a discussion, you'll know exactly where to go to talk to these guys. So So Doug, you're still presenting there, and figure as we sign off, we'll get to see it one more time. But I want to thank both of you for being on the show today. Thanks for approaching me about wanting to do this. This is awesome, and I'm glad to have you guys on as the inaugural guests of this show. And it was a true pleasure going through the operator console with you and getting the demo side of it, hearing what makes you stand out and what you're all about as a company. And I hope that maybe we'll hear from you guys again one day. Maybe with future releases or future updates, we can have a follow up or something. But thank you guys for coming on. Are there any last words from either of you?
No, Josh, we just want to say, thank you for the opportunity as well. And we look forward to hearing from all of your listeners, all of your viewers. We're here to answer your questions and show you how awesome the Bridge Operator Council can be for you.
Awesome.
Yep. Thank you very much, Josh, not only for this, but for all the, the books and all the work that you put in for the Skype for Business community. We all do really appreciate it out here.
Oh, well, thank you. That's very kind of you, Doug. I appreciate that. All right. Well, we'll call it a wrap then. Thank you guys for watching and tuning in. If you enjoyed it or think it may be helpful to coworkers or just other colleagues out there, please feel free to share this video, and please watch for notices or information about follow-up Skype for B Spotlight episodes in the coming weeks or months or whenever the next one happens to come out. That's the beauty of not having to be on a rigid schedule with the series. So, I'm going to take advantage of that, but hopefully it won't be too long. Thank you all. Hope you guys have a good weekend, and we'll see you next time.